Hey guys, I'm very much enjoying this game. It's called Infinifactory. It's by the makers of Opus Magnum, another game that I enjoyed. It's a puzzle game. It's a production line factory oriented puzzle game. I know that sounds boring as hell, but it's a lot of fun. So I want to go through it, one of the puzzles with you, and what my solution was, and just share my enjoyment of the game with you guys. So this puzzle requires me to make this product and deliver it to this area here, for it to be teleported away to some distant world. I don't know if the storyline says so. But it looks like a satellite. So I have to make this satellite out of two outputs. This one over here, this orange output box, outputs these blue these blue boxes, which, as you can see, are the boxes that we need for the wings on the satellite, the solar panels, I guess. Okay. This box up here outputs the white central column that we see there. And this thing, which I can't move, it's here permanently, and by the way, I can't move the output boxes either. They are where they are. This thing imprints this little control panel onto the satellite. It imprints it onto whatever box I place in front of it. So obviously I need to run one of these white boxes in front of this to have it imprinted. Okay. So I have to make a factory that will create that satellite out of these white boxes, those blue boxes over there, and somehow get it all to work using these devices. Platforms, conveyor belts, rotators, lifters, welders, eviscerators, sensors, pushers, blockers, and a conduit. I have to use those devices to make that thing. So I can do this any way that I want, but the game encourages you to make the factory in one of three ways, or if you're really good, all three ways. I usually only focus on one though. You can make the factory super efficient. That's your cycles, meaning it takes the least amount of time and effort to make the output, and in this case the satellite. You can make your factory very small so that it takes up the least amount of space, or you can make your factory with the least number of blocks, so cost basically. Okay, so it takes up, it's less expensive blocks wise. By the way, there's no limitation for how many blocks you can use. There's no spending fee or anything like that. You don't have a budget. You can use as many or as few as you want, but it's just part of the challenge. If you want to make a very, very, very cheap factory, that's what this is. Now, you can see this graph here. What that does is shows distribution on the solutions. For example, here it shows that my solution of 119 cycles is a bit better than the average distribution. Most people do something that requires more cycles. So mine is a bit rarer. I'm in a lower percentile, or higher percentile, I guess, with my solution. So let's take a look at my solution. Well, anyways, this is one of the motivators of the game, is like, how efficient can I make this compared to other people who are also solving this puzzle? Whoever's doing it out here, they're geniuses, I guess. I don't know. I can't figure that out. Anyway, here's my solution. All right. So I'm just going to run it so you guys can see it in action. Right. So it'll do this infinitely. The factory works. I made it so it would do this, for an infinite number of satellites. Sometimes people will solve stuff where it only will work for the number of satellites that they need, which is 10. Okay. So there we go. All right. So let's take a look at like how I solved some of the manufacturing problems. So the first thing I have to do is I have to make this 3-stack column here for the central area of the satellite. And so what I did is I put a lifter on the output here that will lift the blocks as they come out of the output device. Okay. All right. So they lift, and when they get up to this block here, which is a sensor, let me get a lower view here. Whoa. There we go. See, that's a sensor, and it senses when there's a block right below it. That sensor is attached to these 3 things, which are pushers. So when a block activates a sensor, these 3 pushers push these 3 blocks in front of that welder and onto that conveyor belt. Get a different angle. All right. Whoa. All right. Okay. So now those 3 blocks are welded together. Then they make their way through the conveyor belt and down this hopper that I made. And the hopper then moves the tower in front of the imprinter that imprints that little device, that little control panel, onto the middle block. And then the conveyor belt moves it onto the turner because it needs to be in a different orientation than the imprinter gave it. So I turn it, and then it moves along here. Okay, so that's all I'm going to show you for that one, for this production line, for the tower. Now let's look at the solar panels, for the blue solar panels. The blue's coming out here, so let's watch that. All right, so what's happening is that I have these 4 blocks coming out, and when all 4 of them are out, that means that the last, or the first that came out, will hit this sensor, and that sensor is connected to 4 pushers, and those pushers push it out onto these conveyor belts. Okay, and then the conveyor belts pull the blocks below these welders, and so that I can weld them into a 2-block configuration. So now, instead of having 4 separate blocks, I have 2 sets of 2, which I need for my solar panels. Now I have the solar panels coming along here on this. I call this my Q line. I have 2 Q lines. Okay. And this Q line is there to just hold the solar panels until they're needed. See, I can't just let them fly around on the conveyor belt because they'll arrive at the production facility, which is further up the road, too soon. So I have them sit here and wait in the Q line to be pushed onto the production line. So the production line is this conveyor belt here. This is a pusher that will push this block onto this production line to bring it towards the tower. Watch as this tower goes in front of this sensor. When that happens, this pusher will push this block onto that conveyor belt so that it arrives. So check it out. Here we go. All right, so pushed it. It's going to get there right at the same time. Bam. All right, so we got one wing, one solar panel where it needs to be. Okay. All right. Let's reset this again. All right, so what happens here is kind of interesting. It was kind of an integral part of the solution, and it's very it's like the unsung hero. It's like a very stupid decision, very weird decision to have to make, but it made the difference here. So notice that underneath of this tower, when it gets into this position here, is just a plain block. That block won't move the tower at all. It's just a generic block. But I need the tower to move in this direction in front of these welders to weld it to the solar panels next to it. So what I'm doing is I'm actually using this conveyor belt here, which is pushing this block. This block is going to push the tower, and the tower is going to move to the right while this block is set against it. And then it's going to, both this block and this block are going to move in front of this welder and weld them together. So I'm actually getting dual purpose out of these conveyor belts here. I'm using it to move this into place, but I'm also using it to move this across. Whoops. All right. All right, so now let's look at the last little bit here, which is this production line. The production line of the solar panels that have to go on the opposite side of the tower. So again, I have a queue. I have them come all the way down here and hit this hard stop with a pusher that's waiting to push it into the production line via a sensor. When the sensor detects the tower underneath, it will push it out in front. All right, here comes the towers. All right, so it just went underneath the sensor. The pusher just pushed it just in time to be out in front. And when it does that, it does it in an exact moment where this welder, which I already showed you before, which I said would weld this part to this part, has already welded the front solar panel to this part. All right, and then the least interesting part is then the satellite runs along this conveyor belt, around, and into the deposit. Fast forward, bam. All right. I hope you guys found that interesting. If not, I apologize. But anyways, talk to you guys soon. See ya.